Yeah, so they were coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we are ready to go.
Great. Welcome to Sarah Smith Elementary's Go Team, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I am Elizabeth Zielinski. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in discussion. Any members of the public may quietly observe. For members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I'm pleased to call this meeting of Sarah Smith Elementary Go Team to order at 3:02. Our first order of business is to call roll.
Dwight Hudson,
Present.
Elizabeth Zielinski,
Present.
Simona Hinton Derrickson,
Present.
Mittman, Carla Lamar,
Here. Present.
what is that? Jennifer Moore,
Present.
Chrissy Stewart,
She's present.
Trustee Stewart.
present, yes, Lakeisha Smith, Ben Miller,
Here.
and Andrea Amarno let me know she would be absent today.
And is there a quorum present?
Yes.
Okay, our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you by email. Are there any changes to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to I motion to approve.
Thank you, Carla.
Aye.
A second?
I second.
Thank you, Chrissy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. All right, we will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes were emailed to you in advance. Are there any corrections to the last meeting minute? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I make a motion to approve the previous meetings minutes.
Thank you, Anne. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Lakeisha. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Great, those are our two action items. We do have additional items to update this, review the strategic plan and the priority rankings. And so I will turn it over to Mr. Hudson for that discussion.
All right, thank you and welcome everyone. A lot of this data we've covered in past meetings, but we want to reconsider this data as we move forward. And to be very transparent, we're gonna have to make some tough decisions for next year. We are in a shortfall as a district. And so there's gonna be a lot of budget cuts for next year. We're gonna have a lot of budget cuts. And so we really need to consider, as we look through this and we get to the end about our priorities, where they lie. And when we have to make those hard choices, we're looking at what are our priorities and we're making those cuts according to that. So, the agenda we already discussed. Right now, we're before winter break. We're looking at the strategic plan and voting on the ranked strategic plan priorities for 25-26 budget discussions. We're going to take a look at the continuous improvement plan, and this is a quarterly check-in. Really, the next meeting that we have, we will have a new data. We'll have a new data set. Right now, we still just have fall data and last year's GMAS to look at, but the students will be taking the map again in December, and then we'll have that data to look at moving forward. So as part of this continuous improvement plan, we're doing the quarterly check-in. And we want to look at what's already been completed, what data supports the completion of an action step and success criteria, both implementation and student achievement. So our first goal, by May 2025, our students proficient and above rate will increase from 55% to 61% as measured on milestones. Each cohort of students demonstrating a 10% increase, we will decrease beginning learners by the following: third grade from 34% to 14%, fourth grade from 25% to 18%, and fifth grade from 16 to 6%. And that's at least. So that's the minimal goal that we're trying to obtain. And our data points to look at that, we're going to, teachers will receive feedback on the implementation of phonics instructions, utilizing the science of reading strategies as evidenced through observations and walkthroughs. 100% of our teachers will attend PLCs on a weekly basis and incorporate content-based text into the lesson plans as evidenced by classroom observations as well as walkthroughs. 100% of our third through fifth grade teachers will receive content-based resources and feedback about how they integrate content-based text in their instruction. Feedback implementation will be evidenced by classroom observations and walkthroughs. And then we are using MAP to monitor all of those things. So the next time we look at MAP, we're looking to see growth. It is not the same as GMAS, but is a good predictor of GMAS. And we technically score slightly higher than what GMAS shows, than what MAP shows on GMAS. So that's typically what happens. So we're using that as a method for monitoring students throughout.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If we want each cohort to increase by 10%, why did we make our overall increase from only 6%?
So that's the decrease. So when you look at the data, we have to look at, first, we have to look at the overall. So overall, we're looking to move from 55% to 61%.
Okay.
However, we have students that are in the,
Developing.
no, not developing, oh gosh, in the red, that needs improvement of, what's the red called again? Beginning. And so those students that are in beginning, we want to move students out of beginning into developing.
Okay.
And at least show a 10% increase in that. So if you look at fifth grade from last year, sorry. You look at fifth grade from last year in literacy, they were at 16%. And so in beginning, and so we're looking to move that from 16 to 6, and that will help the overall score as well, because we really don't want any students in beginning. We want all of our students to at least be developing and above, and really what we really desire is proficient and above. When you look at CCRPI, the students that are in the beginning don't earn any points. When they're developing, they earn 0.5. When they're proficient, they earn a whole point. And when they're distinguished, they earn 1.5. So we're looking to decrease that number too. So we're not just looking at moving our top students higher. We're also looking at focusing on the students that are struggling and moving them up as well.
Can I ask a question? When it says 100% of teachers, is that classroom teachers or does that include the special
Classroom
teachers as
teachers.
well?
Classroom teachers.
So are the specials teachers including like different strategies in terms of implementing the curriculum in there? Like, let's say going to library, going to music, going to, gym?
That is an area that we're still working on, but they integrate some of it, but the core teachers are the ones really doing the literacy work.
Okay.
But we've asked them to incorporate different things when they have readings and things of that nature based on their content, and yes, they can.
Okay, and are they involved in any of those PLCs?
They're not, because they are covering the PLCs. Well, so when the kids go to PE, music, art, that's the time for PLC, so all the teachers can get together at one time. But we have spoken to them about perhaps when we have faculty meetings and they feel like it's something that they don't necessarily need, that will give them time to plan together as well.
Do they get so we get like weekly, monthly newsletters from the grade levels telling what the curriculums are. Do they get that too?
Everybody gets that.
So the specials teachers will see what they're covering.
They should know.
Okay.
And that's an area that we talked about just improving on as well.
Sorry, I have another question.
Mhm.
So some of the schools in our cluster have decreased their, beginning learners. And so I was asking them, what would they have pointed to in their school that helped? And something that someone told me really surprised me, and they said that they have their assistant principals calling the families and reaching out to the parents to engage them on reading and literacy, and inviting the parents to visit the school outside of normal hours if they needed help learning how to engage their student in literacy activities. And so I know that what happens at home, we don't get to control any of, but I didn't know if we had talked at all about how we do engage families more, because this is something that everyone's gonna have to help with.
Right. Duly noted. So our action steps for this are K through teachers will implement phonics instruction with fidelity using science of reading strategies to support all learners. And so this is happening with the Haggerty, as well as the instruction in the classroom with read alouds. And I'm missing one, phonics instructions with foundations. So we're doing foundations, we're doing read alouds, we're doing Haggerty. And for the upper grades, we are doing
Morphine magic.
morphine magic, thank you.
Did Flyleaf ever come to be?
Flyleaf, we're using in a limited fashion, and we're using it in tier 2 for tier 2 students.
Okay.
Implement PLCs with fidelity, focusing on reading for meaning and the science of reading to strategically address the reading needs of our students. And so in the PLCs, that's some of what the teachers discuss, as well as they're going through these different things, making sure that they internalize some of the lessons. So not just talking about the lessons, but some of the lessons are actually practiced in the PLC with the teachers. Yes.
I was just wondering, who is in charge of, like the direction of the PLCs? Does that come from the bottom up or the top down?
So it's a combination of both.
Okay,
And truly, when we get to where we want to be, that's where the teachers will just plan it all. But right now, pretty much the coaches lead, but the teachers also determine some of the direction based on, they ask questions during the PLC. So, hey, where do you want to go? Do we want to look at this? What do we feel is the most important thing to
so
look
there's
at right
something
now?
like a feedback loop.
Yeah, and they all work together. Utilize content-based nonfiction tests to build background knowledge and address reading opportunities. And so these are all the action steps that are in progress. Of course, none of these will be finished at any point during the year. This happens all throughout the year. So the anticipated date of completion is May 2025. Resources, support personnel needed, instructional coaches, the admin team, and we also have district support as needed. Goal 2, numeracy. So we're looking to move from 47.3 to 52.3% in numeracy as measured on milestones, with each cohort of students demonstrating a 10% increase. And so when we made this goal, we didn't have the math data. And so as all of it comes in, which I think the last set just came in this week, we'll refine this goal to narrow it down to what we're going to move as far as the lower numbers, looking at beginning and looking at each level to see. But it's this is the right data. It's just a matter of being more meticulous with it and narrowing it down to what we're going to do, like we did with reading, because we were able to go through and see how many students need to move and everything to make that decrease and increase. So same thing, 100% of our teachers will receive monthly feedback on the implementation of contextual problem solving. This is very big. Conceptual understanding and productive struggle as evidenced by observations and walkthroughs. 100% of teachers will receive at least monthly feedback on the implementation of contextual problem solving, conceptual understanding, and productive struggle as evidenced by the classroom observations and walkthrough as well. And all the teachers will participate, all the homeroom teachers, to be more specific, will participate in PLCs and utilize lesson internalization on their lesson plans as evidenced by classroom observations of effective implementation. And so the monitoring is still the map. Our action steps are providing professional learning and guidance in PLCs, monitor the implementation of contextual problem solving and conceptual understanding, and implement PLCs with fidelity, focusing on lesson internalization. Same thing, May 2025, and it's the same people that are responsible, the coaches, admin team, and district support is needed.
Are you seeing any barriers to getting this done the way you want?
The barriers sometimes are just,
Like, I know with Godot, like have it, like with resources being how they are, like a lot of stuff is online, like is the transition from online to maybe paper to the classroom, is that barrier kind of taken away, or are teachers being, given their, like somebody like printing them, like how is that?
so at the beginning of the year, Foundation printed all of the GADOE materials for us.
For the teachers and students, so it's got
Yeah.
lesson plans too?
It has the books, like, so we went online and took all of the lessons that they have online,
Okay,
and that was printed as a book for the teachers, and then Ashley compiled everything for every single grade and made copies and put that out. Yes,
About real live being taught, math and Spanish.
mhm.
And you may have answered this before, I'm sorry for asking it again. How do they do when they now take these exams in English?
So there's a translanguaging piece that happens in the English side and vice versa. So what they do is say, for example, I'll use, Carlucci and Andrews. Sometimes they will like teach key vocabulary in the other language and make sure that they understand it in both. And that's supposed to happen across the board. I know Montano did a great job of that last year as far as working with decimals and things of that nature, giving some of the vocabulary. So that's one of the things that they discuss as well. Okay. Okay, that was it for numeracy. And then, did I not? So this is the whole child goal. By May 2025, our attendance will improve from 83.3 on CCRPI to 88% as measured by CCRPI. So this is one of the harder things to move, because we really, other than encouraging the students at this level, we don't have as much influence. But we will review signing documents to ensure all team members participate in the weekly meeting. So we have a weekly meeting on Friday that's been occurring since about maybe the third week of school, the whole child intervention team. 84.1% or more of our students' body will be recognized for their good attendance. So as the attendance is showing and improving, students will be recognized. And then all of our students with 8 or more absences during the first semester will have a parent meeting with attendance ambassadors if necessary. So Mr. Champion is running that. The whole child intervention team does happen every Friday. And I'm sorry, every Monday. And then after they meet on Monday, we meet as an admin team. And the first thing on our agenda are different students that we may need to discuss. So if we notice some with attendance issues, we'll deal with that. I'm also meeting with all of the children. I have a list of our top 20 worst attendance right now to kind of just to meet and talk with them and see if there's something else besides just attendance. If they're feeling anxious, if there's something that's bothering them, if there's something, social, emotional that is causing them to be absent so much, and just kind of hear it right from the horse's mouth, like, hey, Mr. Hudson, this is difficult, or that's going on, or this has been a challenge for me. And then our CCRPI attendance will improve by 3% each semester, monitored in APS graphs on the dashboard. I think right now we're at about 83, maybe 82% for CCRPI attendance. So action steps in progress, we kind of spoke about some of those, but the whole child and intervention team and attendance ambassadors will meet weekly to discuss student attendance. Team members will maintain up-to-date notes on students' attendance tracker spreadsheet and ensure parent-teacher context for the 1 to 2 unexcused absences. Provide monthly incentives, badges, jammy jam, dance parties to promote the good attendance throughout the school year. The team will promote use of the district's monthly attendance campaign activities as well as school-based initiatives. Also ensure that our parents or students with over 5 unexcused absences during the first and second semester will have a face-to-face or virtual attendance meeting to determine attendance barriers, develop a student attendance intervention plan, and complete an attendance contract. And that is ongoing throughout the year. We plan on closing that out May 2025. Attendance committees, attendance ambassadors, and social workers are the main people responsible, with Mr. Champion pretty much running that part of it.
So are attendance ambassadors, are they staff members? or-
Staff members.
And so CCRPI is made up of attendance, but then it's also made up of how students are performing on milestones.
Right.
So will we have a celebration for students who have milestone growth, just like we're celebrating attendance?
I mean, it could be, but here's the thing with milestones, it's post everything. So,
Right,
you know, we call it in education, like that's the autopsy.
right,
MAP is the checkup.
right.
So we're trying to make sure that
Yeah.
we, throughout the year, check on them. So we will celebrate growth. The students set goals in the, earlier in the year, but it's gonna be based on milestones, not
MAP.
milestones, MAP, not milestones.
So how do they celebrate math growth?
How will we celebrate MAP growth?
Yeah, how?
So probably in an assembly, we haven't determined yet, but we have the assemblies, the constellation assemblies as well, and then some in-class things that we can look at. Our calendar is just so packed that, and the teachers don't like us pulling them out so much.
Yeah.
And we already have a lot of assemblies and things of that nature, so trying to find a nice, quick way to celebrate them as well. All right, so this is our GMAS data for the end of 21-22, the end of 22-23, and the end of 23-24. The first set here, this is 3rd grade, ELA, 4th grade, and 5th grade.
When did we stop departmentalizing 3rd and 4th grade and stop having teachers focus on English or math?
That was before my time. I think my first year here, they phased out, 4th grade was the last, they phased out 4th. Yeah, so prior to me coming, I think they decided that 2 years before, and so they started phasing it out by grade. So they phased out 3rd first, then 4th, and then 5th is the last one that's remaining departmentalized. So that was a decision made prior to my coming.
They're not phasing that out though, right?
No.
Okay.
Not, well, we don't have plans yet, but to do that, but we're always looking at the data to see. Because as you see, as we look at 5th grade, we don't know. It went 21, 18, 16. This is, you know, our beginning students. These are developing. It was higher here, it dropped. This is my first year, 2023. And then 2024 went back up slightly as well.
Yeah, but those are different kids.
They are, and so different kids,
So if you look at 3rd grade in 22, 4th grade in 23, and 5th grade in 24,
they
that would
increase.
be the same class.
Mhm.
So the red decreased.
The red went down to 16 from 22.
Mhm.
So did the yellow, and the other two went up.
24 to 20.
You know, so 22,
We're looking, yeah, 22 to
22,
16.
18, 16. Yes, ma'am. So,
It would be interesting to see the beginning of 5th grade and the end of 5th grade to compare the growth that was made with departmentalization as opposed to not. Something like that to think about.
so this is the data that we looked at before by subgroup, but I added 2022 to that. And this is still ELA.
And is this 3rd grade, like what, is this a grade, what grade is this, or just in general?
This is overall.
Overall, okay,
Mhm.
sorry.
this 20, if you look at each little column, that is that particular group and the data over those years.
What is that am I missing some, what is that number represent?
Which one, Carl?
The percentage.
Like,
Is it proficient? or-
yeah, is it, what is that number for?
This is proficient and above.
Okay.
Proficient and above for 22, 23, 24,
So the
by
two
subgroups,
Gotcha.
or cohorts, I prefer. This is GMAS for math, comparing 22, 23, 24. Third grade, once again at the top, fourth grade, and then fifth grade. And it's still, and it is dropping. And that's, you know, we do have more kids that are moving in, and we haven't had the advantage of having them from K, moving them up. But we do see like some of our students that have stayed here and been here for a while, that they are moving.
Has there been any looking into, like, kind of reflecting back on, so looking at like the vertical alignment from saying like second to third grade, third to fourth grade, fourth to fifth grade? Because I feel like there's, like there might be strands where you could say, if we could start this strand, you know, in kindergarten and build upon it every single year, like, are there ever like gaps that kind of stand out? Or is it, I guess, is there ever a PLC opportunity for those like grade levels to vertically align and say, like, when you come into third grade, it'd be helpful if you did this in second grade?
So we did that, Carla and the team led that earlier this year, where they all kind of went around the gym and looked at their data and shared that out. You want to speak to that a little bit more?
I mean, we've done it in years past. Right now with the math, it's harder because it's new. So it's hard to get a full
But I think
picture
some of the
right
things
now.
might be kind
But
of glaring if you come in and you're like, oh, this group doesn't.
Yeah.
Kind of want
right.
versus, you know, okay, but yeah, it's hard to transit.
And we got the new standards last year. So then we're comparing apples to oranges in a sense, but then we also do have to just look at, we do have breakdowns where it says, okay, this grade really struggled in this particular area. And we know what that is, and a lot of it is maybe really overall as a school, I think it's numerical reasoning. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was numerical reasoning. So we know that that's something that we need to emphasize as we deal and look through the different PLCs.
We do a lot of that in PLCs though, as grade levels. We just need to expand it to that vertical because, you know, the teachers in PLCs will say, oh, they really didn't get whatever in this unit and I had to like double down and go back and do a lot of remediation on that, or maybe they didn't get it in third grade, or, you know, so if we need to do more vertical alignment.
And then also, last Tuesday or the 5th, when it voted day, we had PLCs, I met with fourth grade, and we just looked at multiplication problems. We took one exit ticket, looked at the multiplication problem, saw where the students had strengths and weaknesses, and you know, they were able to say, some of the teachers said, well, we really have to thank third grade, because it seems like they did a really good job with this as they looked at the problem, but then we were able to discuss, okay, these were the weak points. This is where they struggled with solving this problem, whether it was procedural, conceptual, and then some students just struggled with, which is going to be a major part of Milestone, explaining their steps. So they were able to look at all of that and then talk about how they were going to reteach for that so that they could support those students.
So I think what Ann's getting at is, if they're missing explaining their steps in fourth grade, then start learning that in second grade.
Mhm.
So then it's built on each
Yeah.
other.
Like,
Not-
start in second grade
yeah.
with a
Well,
simple
and that's
addition.
That's how the standards really work. They kind of spiral up by grade. So even though, let's say, for example, if you're doing addition in first grade, it might just be up to 20. Then you go to second grade, it's up to 1,000 and it moves up. So it's still the same skill, but it spirals grade by grade. So then they're adding on. So if they catch the weakness or the struggle area in that particular grade, then they can work on that and then as they move up and improve. And I think we saw that when we looked at the data for math, how each year, or especially reading, I think, you can see how each year they get better and better, and that red decreases, or the beginning decreases in each grade level. And I think you can attribute that to the spiraling of the curriculum. So this is math by subgroups. And then, this was a request for spring, for growth. Let me see what we have here. Yep, so this was spring on math. Oh, this is everything, math and reading. And this was the growth, and this is the predictions that were used for milestones. So when you look at this spring from last year, this is 24, April or May, April, you look at this and it shows what the growth is. And this is what we use as a predictor of how students will perform on milestones. So this is third, fourth, and fifth.
So is this achievement or is this growth? The way I've
It's a-
seen, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the way I've seen growth before is like low growth, low average growth, high average growth, high growth.
So this is the growth that really just is a predictor of how they will achieve on milestones. So this is taking all of that data and compiling it, and then saying, okay, based on their growth, they probably will be proficient or distinguished. That's the dark green. Proficient is the light green. Developing is the yellow, and then the red is beginning.
But I guess when I think of growth, I think for last year at the end of spring, what percentage of students for the whole year had high growth?
Yeah.
Whether they ended in medium achieve, whether they ended in developing achievement, or because you could go from, beginning growth to developing, and that would have been, maybe that would have been a high growth for that
Right.
student. So I guess I don't think that this is actually growth of what students did. It sounds
I
like.
think that's come up before, because it's called, there's map growth, and then there's map achievement. And then that's what we see, and then it's called growth achievement here.
Right.
So we see map growth and we see map achievement. So when you put map growth achievement, it muddies the water. So
Okay.
if this is the beginning proficient, like,
Right.
then that would be achievement, and maybe it's just taking growth out.
No, this is using the growth that they made from the beginning of the year to the end. But I think what you're talking about is looking at which students, like a specific report that has the
Their
growth
growth.
for overall in each grade level, what they have. So you may be looking at, for example, just like what you said, some students that had typical, low, typical, and high growth. That sounds like what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
You satisfy students who have growth, but depending on where their achievement lies, they still may be low.
And
So far,
that is true, but also understand that when you include this, we're thinking about students with disabilities. We're thinking about ESOL students. We're thinking about our regular students. We're thinking about GATE students. And so all of those students have a range of growth. And so what the report looks like, or what we're looking at, is students that start at this point during the year are compared to students that scored in that same growth area or same range at the beginning. And then you compare those students to how they grew throughout the year. And that's what it's looking at, comparing those same students to another set of students the same way, and whether they have low, typical, or high growth, and seeing how they grew from there. And so, although a student could be still in beginning, if a student, for example, we have a newcomer that comes to the country and they don't speak any English. But as they start to learn English, they start to master the content too. That student may still show that he's beginning, but the growth is he's grown from this to this. And that's okay, as long as they're growing, that's the most important thing. When they remain stagnant they're not showing growth, and that's for any group of students, then that's where it's problematic. Okay? And so when I talk to the staff, there's a Spanish word, gris, G-R-I-S, it means gray. But that's my little acronym for the year, which is growth, rigor, IB, and standards. That's what we're focusing on to help our students grow the way they need to be. And that's for every student in the building. And I don't care even if you're a child with special needs, you're able to grow. And so that's what we're looking at. Your growth may not be as much, it may not be as broad, but the reason why the extra funds are spent and there's less, a lower class size, or they may have a para or whatever model they have, that's what that's for, to help them grow to the point that they need to. These are fall map results. And this is where we started for the year. And so these students, this is where we're looking to decrease this number here. This is our beginning with 14, 18, 22, and 22%. And the same thing with math in the middle. We need to decrease this yellow, which is the developing. Green is proficient, and the dark green is distinguished. This is by cohorts once again, and this is MAP. This is just where everyone started for the year. And I think this is actually comparing fall of 23-24 to fall of 24-25. And I think we looked at this before. And pretty much we're starting a little bit higher this year, so we hope to see that growth continue. In most,
Different cohorts.
right, yeah,
Not all.
Not all.
not all. And some of this is the summer slide. So I think we talked about what do we notice, but we can talk about what do we notice and what are your wonderings based on the data that we looked at.
Back to our conversation about whether having teachers focus on English or math benefits student outcomes. Are we able to look at traditional classes and DLI classes, because all the DLI classes are departmentalized like that? So it would be curious to see the different cohorts within that. those classes.
So the reason we can't look at that, and just keep in mind, this is gonna be across the board for everything. We can for certain groups, and I just need to make sure what they are. But like ESOL, we couldn't look at that because the numbers are too low and that violates FERPA. And then any of the groups that are below a certain number, and within that, it becomes so identifiable because the numbers are so low that we can't share that.
Well, even if you just looked
Talking
at it
about
from the
the class.
school, even if you just looked at it from the school,
Even from the school point of view, I didn't get a chance to speak to her. I have a call out to her just to make sure I don't share anything I'm not supposed to, Margaret McKenzie, because we do have access to that data, but to just be very forthright with it, because some of the numbers are so low.
right?
Like, for example, we don't have a lot of Black students in,
But it's 15 is the number to be able
Like
to
if
show
you
it.
have 50 third graders versus, 100, like DLI.
Or
third
don't not even
graders.
show cohorts.
Yeah, not even show cohorts, just show how the overall.
just
like,
the overall, I'll
departmentalization is
double check
working.
with her.
But I mean, to show a cohort, you just need 15 students, and all of DLI in the whole school, there want to be 15 of different cohorts.
Per grade. If we're talking about breaking it down per grade, that may be an issue. Overall, it may not be, but I'll double
Right.
check and we can get that information.
I think if we have to make, hard decisions this year and review things, it'll be helpful to have that, because we have different kids learning different ways.
Yeah, and the superintendent is looking at everything.
Yeah.
He's looking at everything as we were in that meeting together, so DLI came up several times. He didn't say he's going to do anything, but he said he's looking at everything, and the main thing that he wants is going back to the basics. And when I hear that, I think you know, the 3 Rs, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
How does IB, go into our goals?
So when we look at IB, that is the overarching program for the school.
Mhm.
And it's transdisciplinary, so it crosses all, you know, all subject areas, as well as when we look at just our units of study and everything, those units combined with the different subjects is what we deal with throughout the school. So IB is like the driving vehicle for everything that we do, and that's why it's part of the 4 that I talked about with Greece. IB is right there in the middle as one of the things that is a driving force for the school.
When you say units of study, do you mean like that, like the, where we are in space and time?
Right.
Okay,
So it's because we're based on those thematic units per grade. Yes, sir.
I've asked you this question before. Sometimes I'm concerned about maybe some grade inflation,
Somewhat.
grade inflation,
Mhm.
or a connection between the classroom grades and then the lack of performance on the test.
Mhm.
How will that be addressed moving forward?
That is a hard balance to strike,
Uh-huh.
and let me tell you why. Parents. Because some parents are very upset when they see their children with low grades, and others are not. Me personally, I'm more concerned with the child growing. But, you know, teachers frankly get a lot of pushback, a lot of arguments sometimes about a grade, and then, you know, the teacher will say, hey, look, this grade is reflective of what they're doing on math, but for some parents, that is not what they want. We've talked about it, but it's come up before with different parents as well as, with the teachers. And it's just a matter of striking a balance with that, where the assessments and everything meets what the students are doing. And that's a problem across the country with grades.
well, wouldn't it, I mean, if you're doing grade level assessments, if you're having to remediate, then those wouldn't be a grade level assessment, right? That would be a below grade level.
Not necessarily, because like even what we just talked about, it was a grade level multiplication task.
Okay.
And if a student didn't get it, then they sit back and they review that same task. It's on grade level.
Okay,
It's just a little bit behind, and then they work on that skill to hopefully get them up to par.
well, I'm just saying, yeah, but I guess I'm just like looking at those different cohorts, if, you know, you're saying that like there's 80% or there's 60% or that aren't meeting grade level as according to MAP, which we know like standardized tests only show so much. Like what's being, like, how are, because you're saying like the parents are an issue, like obviously no one wants their kid to get an F or whatever. But how are parents being brought in, like, I know that you guys do the Wednesday tutoring, you're saying you're calling people for attendance, getting parents, you know, to kind of be, like, what? And I know you and Kasike do like outreach, like parent coffee chats and things like that. Like what, how can we, I guess my question is, how can we get more, like time with these kids, you know, like more involvement?
Who, with the parents being
Yeah.
more involved?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if they're, I mean, if you're saying they're gonna be upset over the grades, like everyone wants to be, you know, everyone's gonna be upset over a 4th grade, but it's like, I don't know, I guess I'm just thinking that's like one big, I mean, I know it's a huge barrier and all. Schooling, it just.
And I mean, truly, it shouldn't matter, but the reality is it does affect the teacher. You know, it shouldn't, but whether unintentionally or unintentionally, it does.
How does that affect a teacher?
Because no one wants to argue all the time.
Hmm.
So
I
is
mean,
there a way to take that off the teacher, that they have administrative support and administrative backup, that this is your student's grade, but we want to help your student. So I'm so glad you're engaged now. Let's come on Wednesdays for after school tutor, come in the mornings. And is it okay if your child misses a special and we do extra work during that time? Are you okay with that, mom or dad or guardian?
We can't do that legally. I mean, for some of the specials, because they're required to have
Right.
a certain number,
Right.
a certain number of hours.
or any, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I think you're exactly right that if parents see A's all year long, and then they get their math testing that their child is still developing, I sure would be upset then, but you know, maybe it's the end of the year and I'm like, oh, we'll address it next year, and then the cycle starts.
Well,
right
I
back
think
up
it's
again.
something too, we recently, met with committees, faculty did, and I'm on the parent engagement committee. And one of the things that came out of that is an APS, initiative that's rolling out with our new superintendent to do more of those, not just at the Title I schools, but at all schools, to have family engagement evenings and things like, show parents like, sort of like on a coffee talk kind of idea.
Yeah.
Show them how to work with your child on these skills. This is what we're doing. And so we're still a new young committee. We're trying to figure out how to do this in concert with what the district is doing. But then also, that aside, all the parent engagement and all the keeping your child and helping them to do some work, there still comes that where the rubber meets the road and the child is in front of the computer and taking the test. And sometimes we just don't know how that's going to turn out.
Yeah.
They might have just had a bad day and their socks are wet because it was raining outside, and they're taking a test and they just hit the wrong button.
Yeah.
So I think there's more that goes into it than just one or two pieces, but I think that it's a great conversations to start having.
And that, I was gonna say there are so many different factors.
Yeah.
Because it could be some children don't test well.
I'm gonna ask you a question. So is it within a school, not just our, but any educational system's purview to even teach the foundations of taking a test? I mean,
Great question.
I think so, but I also think it helps. I think your fifth graders or older, just
Yeah.
the sheer experience of it
yeah,
is where you'll start seeing maybe more of a shift. But I think also, instead of there just being this devastating grade on a report card, sometimes it is coupled with comments or conversation and, papers that went home, and this was his grade on this, but I had him redo it, and so this is a new grade. So hopefully those background pieces are in as well. If they're not, I mean, that's probably another conversation, but it's like Mr. Hudson said, there's just so many pieces to that. I think it's good to have the conversation and be aware of it, but look at, where we need to grow. there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's so many conversations, at some point there needs to be like an action step and say like, this is gonna be like I don't know if you have like a grade level assessment, like every unit has a grade level assessment and you can take it as many times as you want it until you get it. I just feel like there's so much talk around topics and identifying problems. We can identify problems all the time. It'd be helpful to like say like, this is our first step towards it, to fixing the problem, or to at least look moving in a direction of fixing the problem.
And I think that's everything that we're doing. As far as, the PLCs, the teachers planning together, they do have some common assessments. That's something definitely to work towards, to get more common assessments.
That would be great.
Last year, we did it using the district's common assessments. And I think everything was so new that it didn't give us the results that we wanted. But we're moving beyond just talking about that. They did start that last year. What I did with fourth grade on the 5th, that was a beginning look and seeing, okay, if we do this on a regular basis, how can we move the students? And having like a reteaching plan as well as a common assessment with the students, so.
but not even on just an academic part, but also the endurance of taking the test, knowing how to use my paper on the side and scratch my things and, like I'm on a totally different spectrum, but to get our students ready for the step exam so they could move towards licensing, they do test taking strategies. And this is like, medical students.
And maybe that's something that I can loop in the counselor on, and that will be part of their, the lessons when she's working with the upper grades especially.
Yeah, especially like, SPL, you could do executive functioning, you could do note taking, you could do test taking, you could do Like how to, yeah, there's definitely.
I mean, it's really important in third, well, there's a few grades you really see it as important, right? Is it second grade where the test is no longer read to them, the math
Yeah.
test?
Mhm.
So second grade is
It
a big
can
year
be,
for that.
depending on their
Yeah.
habit of that.
Yeah. And then third grade is their first year at Milestone.
Yeah.
And some teachers do this at school already, but it is not.
Some
consistent
teachers,
across
some
grades.
teachers are, yeah.
And then maybe fifth grade to get them ready to go out the door.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's American education is test, test, test,
Yeah.
test, test.
which,
I don't like, but.
which you look at other countries that don't test, and they're doing much better than the US is. This is just part of the
Yeah.
culture, part of what has been expected for years, but you look at other countries and they don't test as much. And their students are performing better, or the tests are more authentic, where it's not just a, paper pencil, but it's more realistic and more real life, where they're either creating something or doing a project.
That would be great to do too.
But that's kind of where we are in this country, because they have to take these assessments until it's, who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have any additional questions?
Run the budget cut, if that's allowable.
Well,
Okay,
let's see what's next. Because some of us, which is me, well, you too, I think. You're doing cluster area, right?
And that's me, Joe.
Just you? Oh, that was last year, okay. I'm getting my years confused, sorry. Go ahead and ask a question about the budget.
when the district is determining the budget cuts, so how do they slash? Is it per pupil? They slash like the rate per pupil? Do they look at the school?
I don't know what they're going to do yet or how they're going to do it. The way that it's worked in the past is we have a lot of autonomy in certain areas, and they give us a bucket of money. And then certain things we have to have, like we have to have 2 media specialists. You have to have a secretary. There's certain things you have to have, and then there's other things that are not required. So then we look at, what do we value? Do we value the teachers getting the training that they need, or do we value lower class sizes? And what is gonna be beneficial? And so we have to look at all that as we are planning for the next year, because there's gonna be some trade-offs. We may not be able to have 3 specials or 4 specials, because we may need an extra teacher somewhere. So these are all things that we have to look at. What do we really value as a school? And what do we need to move forward? But when it comes down to those choices, which I don't know how they're gonna make that decision, because they could go back to less autonomy and say, these are the things that you're required to have. These are the class sizes that you're required to have. And then based on that, we have to plan, or they may just say, okay, we're slashing your budget. Which I already have our projections for next year, but I have to hold that tight for right now. But I will tell you that it's less than this year. And that's a demographically thing, a demographic thing that's done, looking at who has children in the area, the different trends, and they come pretty close. We had that discussion last year, and you remember how far away they were? It was maybe 10 or 15.
Wasn't that big, right?
Wasn't a big So
Percent or?
numbers, like 10 or 15 off by students based on their projections.
You mean dollars?
No, 10 or 15 students.
Okay.
So they said we would have 800 students, for example, and we may have had 815.
Gotcha. So if you have like a population growth, does that alter the budget, or does that just alter the district's budget?
Well, that alters the budget in that we're funded for gifted students differently. But also that when you look at the hard number, each student comes with, let's say, $5,000. And so that's how they measure the budget. So this year we were, I think 30 something students under, or it was slightly more than that. It came to $181,000. So that was cut from the budget. And so we had to figure out with that, how do we work through that? All right. You know, we've looked through this so many times, but
I think it reading glasses.
I know this.
I'm about to try to, you have, where are you looking at it though?
Just on my computer. From the presentation you sent us.
So we looked at these goals. You know what? We don't need to look here. Let's go. Let's go. Well, we do have to look at it. Trying to see if I can.
The only way she's got close that right there.
And everything.
And that gives you the.
Oh, no, here's the bar.
Yeah.
This is the overall plan because this is moving from basically the goals that you saw on the SIP with the same goals with literacy, numeracy, whole child and attendance, which these two were kind of merged on the other plan. And then we had the school priorities, which we can take a look at that. So under school strategies, common assessments, benchmark level assessments, to foster a cycle of continuous improvement, transdisciplinary teaching for integrated, rigorous and relevant learning through planners and the SRS program of inquiry. So this is all IB right here. Utilize MAP to develop individual goal setting, monitor progress, and provide feedback to increase authentic to increase student lexile levels. Develop and implement consistent writing program to address identify areas for growth. This is RightScore, which is MAP for writing, for lack of better words. And transdisciplinary lessons to teach IB units that incorporate math, science, technology, and other core subjects. Implement consistent social emotional learning, which is done in all grades. Cultivate partnerships to support IB, supplemental training and implementation, program of inquiry development and updates, update planners development in order to implement the program with greater fidelity, and then build community awareness, knowledge, and support for the IB, PYP reauthorization, parent education meetings, update external communications, which this was really just all what we went through with the reauthorization. Care team is now whole child intervention. This plan was made before that to address the needs of students. Meet weekly as recommended to determine the needs of students that require additional support. Assign students that identify as extremely elevated to the social worker, school counselor. So these are all steps that we all, I don't want to read all of this, but this is basically steps that we've all looked at before.
And those on the right are what you as the school come up with. And then in the middle is that column, the 1 through 9, is that what the Go team comes up with?
So that's our priority. So the ones on the right is how we get to solving these. So these are strategic priorities. These are the strategies that we use to implement them. And so when we go back down, so what the activities and discussions are now is what progress has been made toward the priorities identified in our strategic plan? What evidence data do we have? Are we officially reauthorized now?
Yep.
Oh, so that's one.
Congratulations.
No problem. And we received back our matters to be addressed and as well as, what's the other one called?
We have, recommendations
Right.
and commendations. That's what they all used to be called. They call them something different now, and I don't know the terminology. Yes.
So we received all that back and we have our next steps to work on and continue. So we've been reauthorized. And we're still talking about what can we do to improve IB, and just keep it moving and keep it at the forefront of the school and on the teachers' minds. Based upon available data, are there any other adjustments we may need to make to the strategic plan? So that's the conversation for these two right now.
Can I ask you, which of these school strategies do you think is giving you the most bang for its buck? Like, which of these do you see, like, the teachers are happy, you're happy, kids are happy, you're seeing growth? Like, is it like assessments, transdisciplinary, like following the data, the writing program? Like,
Honestly, the biggest thing, and I think, was really just getting the PLCs on the right pathway. That's for me now. Anybody else, I mean, Carly, you can speak to it, and Ms. Stewart, you can speak to it, but I think the PLCs and how they're going, teachers collaborating with each other, speaking about what needs to be done and implementing them, and that really kind of encompasses a lot of them. So even though we're speaking about one thing, that encompasses the IB, that encompasses the assessments, planning, and all of that, because that's what happens in the PLCs. That's the biggest right now that I would immediately say. And of course, you know, the coaches lead that and guide that, so that's another invaluable part of that piece.
Can you go back to the list,
Of strategic, the.
like the strategies we have?
So small.
I'm gonna, just, next time I'm gonna print it, but it's so, that's how the plan.
Yeah, I know that's how it comes out.
Yeah, that's.
No, we're gonna increase that. Just looking at the strategy, so let's.
And we'll do the thing where we can.
I can read it on there.
I've got it on my computer.
But it's really the strategic priorities, right? That middle column is what we would look at.
And we're gonna get to that, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, the PLCs, the writing program, I think that incorporates everything because we do. You know, we look at the assessments and, the teachers take the assessment before they give it so that they know if there's any misconceptions before they give it to the students. For the writing, we've seen a lot of progress with students, writing because the right score mimics the, GMAS as well. So, and it's online, so that helps them also be able, that timed typing on the test that they have to do with the GMAS, it also gets them prepped for that. What else is in there? It gives us a chance to talk about and incorporate, content into the subject area, like, so science reading with the science content, so they're reading in science, they're reading in social studies, and they're using those strategies in their science lessons for the ELA. So, you know,
yeah,
so we talk about all that. So I would say PLCs overall lends to all of those things, assessment and strategies and writing and collaboration.
And IB planning as well.
And IB.
All right. So, as, well, I didn't want to speak on it, but just anyone want to speak on any of these two questions?
I think it's hard until we get the winter data back. To
That's
compare,
true.
right? I mean, we'll know more once that comes back, as far as the growth from fall to winter.
When is our next meeting after this one?
Let me see.
I think January.
Yep, you're right. It is January,
Yeah, we'll have it back by then, right?
January
Oh, yeah.
23rd.
Yep, so
Yeah,
that's
because
what,
we take it the first week of December.
that's when we'll have to take a hard look at everything. And so before that, updates to the strategic plan, so we can take a look at that as we get the fall data or the winter data, and look at fall to winter. Or if we decide we need to make any changes, we can speak up now about any changes that we think may need to be made now before we move on to the priorities. Or I believe that we can also shift that to the next meeting after we look at the fall to winter data.
I'm just wondering if we just wait, because we're gonna have that data, gonna be able to tell us, if, tutorial has been going well, if that's given us any, bang for our buck. If there's any plan to, how can we switch that up? How can we make it better? What do we need to do? I just don't know we have anything to compare to right now.
So what else will the winter data tell us? If tutorial's been working, what else? If PLCs are working?
If PLCs are working.
Have you
if-
implemented any new, like common grade level benchmark assessments, or created any grade level assessments across a specific
We
grade
definitely
that you guys have
created
been looking at?
common assessments, yes,
Okay.
and so like K3, they have common assessments in foundations, and we have a tracker, so they put the scores in and they know how to, remediate, based on that.
Okay.
And how to form small groups as well.
Right, that's how we form our small
Mhm.
groups for the skills that we need to work on. And then, there's math common assessments as well as science, social studies, reading. So I think it's, what else? The other thing was-
Just the grade level benchmarks, if you guys do like check-ins.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes. And then two, right, to this week, we've been taking Right Score. So I'm not sure how quickly that comes back, I cannot remember, but we should be able to have that and start looking at, and I can't even, I gave it this morning to one of the classes, and I can't even remember what genre it was. But whatever genre it was, we will have some, feedback on what they need to work on, and set some goals, and really, look at that and see how they're doing on that, different genres. And
When will parents receive right scores?
Do parents receive?
Parents should receive right scores. There's a window of testing. We can't receive it during that window. And
Right.
then after that window closes, there should
And I
be
don't
a
think
2-week period, then afterwards we get it.
the reason we're taking it this week, because this is the first week of the window, is because next week's IT week, so it won't close until the end of next week. So obviously, we won't have it back Thanksgiving week, but it's, no, who takes it? I'm not sure who took it this time, 2nd through 5th, I believe.
Right.
Right Score.
And do they, is it something that? No, because I'm not a classroom teacher, is it something that we send home to the parents, or is it in Infinite Campus?
I believe we sent it home. We don't
It's
send-
it's computer based for some grade, most all grade levels. I don't know that 2nd grade takes the first one computer based. They may handwrite it the first time they take it, I can't remember. But, so it's like a printout, just like math, like you get, a
Like you get
report.
your math.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm just really unfamiliar. This is my first time hearing that term. What is it? Assessing?
It's
Writing?
writing.
Writing.
yes,
Yep.
right, like WR.
Okay.
So narrative writing,
There's just different genres, so we take a narrative, opinion, and informational. So, and this one, let me look at the.
And then the scores will be available online in their backpack?
You
Yes.
know, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we
The
said.
student can log in on their, they can log in my backpack and it will get
In the,
Okay.
in the app.
in right.
Right, score, okay. Thank you.
Because I gave it today and that's exactly what it said. You can log in after you've taken it
Okay.
and see your score, but probably not until the window closes. And let me look and see what genre it was. Because I can-
How long did it take for them to take it?
So I gave it to a fourth grade class and I would say 40, probably most kids took about 40 minutes. They have 70 and then they can have an additional 20. So they can have up to 90 minutes basically.
And is that test doing all three of those different components at one time?
Oh, no, one at a
Just
time.
one genre at a time.
So will they take it 2 more times
Yes.
in this window?
No,
No.
no.
Got it.
No, one
Each-
genre,
each window is
one
different.
quarter,
Got it.
one genre, one quarter, one genre.
So like you probably, okay, so
So like,
opinion, narrative, informational.
yes. Opinion, narrative, and yes.
Which one was this, do you
Let
know?
me look at mine. This was informational.
Wow.
So basically, we taught, I believe the teachers taught informational, so this will give us a baseline of what we need to work on. So, yeah, this was informational. And I think the next one's.
All right, so we need to take action. We can vote to leave it the same, and I'm assuming that we can go back, let's see, she's not on here today. And then we can go back and take a look at when we have our fall data, when we meet in January, when we have our winter data to compare to the fall data when we come back in January.
So if we don't have anything to do, like if we don't have any like major changes, I think like Elizabeth started just kind of talking about the things that we want to have like at the forefront of our thoughts to like see if there may be changes that we would need to make. Like you talked about the importance of the PLCs, the importance of the common assessments, sharing of the common assessments.
Really, 2 minutes. And that's all I have in common. Informational, and then in February, we do. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so. Is that you guys take it?
Well, I mean, if we're really gonna take action and vote on it, I feel like, we've spent a lot of time talking about like the school strategic, like action steps that they're taking. But did we really review the strategic plan? I mean,
Are you talking about priorities?
yeah, like I think right now the top
That's
priority, okay, we're about to take.
Yeah,
So-
so right now, it was just on the data strategic plan, then where we're going next is preparing for budget development. And really thinking about, use the next slide to capture the priority rankings.
Okay.
And then here they go 1 to 9, and then we'll make a decision on if we're changing any of that, and then I think it's another vote, it is.
Okay, all right, so, we are, if we're doing this as an action item, then we would need a motion to like vote on something. But do we need to have any more discussion on this?
Or do we want to table it till after we get that? Wasn't that what someone said?
We could have a motion to table it, isn't that? I mean, people can make a motion for whatever they want to do. Do y'all feel like it's appropriate to review and update the strategic plan now? Or does someone want to make a motion to review it and take action and vote on the strategic plan now? Or take a motion to delay that until January?
I guess I just don't understand because this, I mean, isn't this up like next year?
It is,
So it's like moving the goal. Like, I feel like we kind of moved the goalpost for like, we need to change things. like, right? Like you set a goal, like you're either gonna get it or you're not.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What are we voting? Are we voting?
Okay.
The actual,
To update the strategic plan, so what we just looked at, then we'll,
we're voting to say if we want to update it.
or just keep it the same.
Okay.
And then perhaps what we do in January is take a look again with the new data.
Can we update it at that point? If you
I
want.
believe we can update it whatever we need to.
Did we already add the 10% in every cohort? Was that already added?
So that is,
No? Yes.
No.
Smart goal, right?
so that's our goal for the continuous improvement plan.
Oh, my God.
But the strategic plan informs the continuous improvement plan. So,
That's why
Because if it informs the continuous improvement plan, maybe we should put an element of like strategically hitting those cohorts that have 80% not meeting grade level.
so I think what we do to keep it overall the same is just make sure that, or close to it, is just make sure we add the percentage that we want to add.
Yeah.
Or make sure that those align, and then
Yeah.
if that's what we need to do, we'll align those overall percentages to match what the goal is, because I think, is it up, this plan is up in what, 2025, right?
Yeah, it's like May 20.
That's this year, so
Yeah.
whatever the end goal is on that strategic plan should fit the SIP, that's right. So if we need to update that, we can, and then take action.
So this is to see if we're aligned with the SIP. Right? If we're making the progress toward our SIP goal.
SIP, towards our strategic plan. So the strategic, think of it like this. The strategic plan is the overarching goal for 5 years.
Okay. The SIP
The
is
SIP is every year, what are we doing to reach that overarching goal?
Okay.
But seeing that this is the last year of the SIP,
Yes.
they should align, because now this is the last year of it, everything should align.
Okay.
So,
So I'm.
I think, the idea would be to sort of evolve the strategic plan next year, once we have an understanding of kind of how funding will be working out, what the district's gonna be thinking, kind of the school trajectory. I don't personally see a lot of benefit in waiting to confirm that these priorities continue to be relevant for this year.
So, I mean, we can,
That's my, I don't, I mean,
It's for, yeah.
like, what's,
So like the SIP is like, that's what we're going for this year. And this is what we've been going for 5 years. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, I see that, like it would be moving.
So do I hear a motion to maintain the school strategic priorities as they currently are?
with the caveat that our current SIP aligns
Oh,
with the strategic plan.
Okay,
this has been, I so moved with the caveat that Mr. Hudson laid out,
A second.
which is to maintain our
current school strategic priorities.
strategic plan priority rankings for the remainder of the academic school year.
Okay, it has been moved by Ben and seconded by Chrissy. Is there any discussion?
Do we need to just like summarize it really fast for if anyone's listening? So we have a strategic plan that is our 5-year goal with all of our end posts up here. These are what we're going for. The priorities are how we ranked in our school. The school strategies are the things that are being done day to day. And the continuous improvement plan is what we are working on specifically 24-25 school year.
That's it.
Good job. Okay, all right.
So again, any
Can
discussion?
you actually repeat that?
One more time.
We've already moved it, Ben Miller.
That was a joke.
Okay, yes,
Anybody?
that makes sense.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Glad they're all on the same page with that now. You all understand things.
Preparing for budget development. So now we'll use the next slide to look at our priority rankings. This is what we've been going with. I don't think we've changed this since I've been here. And we're starting with 1 going down to 9. And so let's take a look at that. And now it's important because remember when we come back to taking a look at where cuts have to go and things of that nature, we want to just make sure that this aligns with where our true priorities are.
So this is gonna be like move up or move down.
Mhm. But right now it's 1 through 9, 1 being the highest, 9 being the lowest.
I personally think 4 needs to move up to 3.
Oh, I actually think 3 needs to move up to 1.
Mhm. I think that 8 needs to move up, because if you guys are saying that the professional learning communities are the most, like, important things, and it's our second to bottom, that maybe the weight of that should be higher.
So
3 through 5, so 3 through 5 and 8 all need to come up.
I think a lot of them are, would be.
I move that we rank all of them as a number 1 priority. It's really tough, right? And I think we'd like to have,
I know 1 is important. But when you start looking at the overall improvement of the school,
And
we can move 1 down.
so I have a question. Are these, we wrote these, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so because 1 feels, I mean, that's awesome. Yes, of course we want that, but it feels so big, whereas to me, like 3 and 8 are like specific things you can see and do and.
And I think actually we can rewrite these however we want. It's not that, I think if I'm correct, we
Right.
don't just have to move these up and down. We could have a different,
And is that what we're doing today, or could that be something that we look at and come back with after math? Because I feel like we could, like, I feel like talking about these priorities, and if we're talking about rewriting them, there's gonna be lots of thoughts. And
It
it might be
doesn't-
better to organize your thoughts and then come together with an
Wouldn't
actual.
that go with the new plan?
Mhm.
These
Yeah.
have
They've already been there
been
for 5
there
years
for
now.
5 years. Do we,
We
Yeah, I
need to
guess
adjust
so.
and reevaluate.
I guess we do need to, if that's gonna be what we base the budget.
And it's gonna be at a time, it's a new superintendent,
Right.
new goals, new plan. We don't even know if we'll be doing this exact process.
So I'm
Something
looking
similar.
forward with like this is our year, we're gonna take it through the year. But I think if we're gonna be doing this again, like keep this, like everyone should have a copy of this and take it up and ebb and flow and say like what you think is important. This is a feeling, this is something I can measure, like. And then if we do another strategic plan, another 5-year plan till 2030, then do that, because we've had these for 5 years, like. Looking forward.
And there's very little. I don't see math.
Number
Math
4.
is
Math
number 4.
I have that be part of.
Oh, math and ELA, sorry, I didn't say.
5, yeah.
I just saw ELA, but
Yeah,
yes.
5 could probably be combined.
I mean, I don't know if we
A
want to
lot of
focus
these
on
could be
ELA
combined, yeah.
and math separately and be more specific in those and, I don't know.
Be a
I'm
good
just
discussion.
thinking, yeah, like number 9 is also really big, and, you know,
9 and 1
yeah.
kind of
Yeah, like you could combine some of them.
go together. This is kind of, I don't think we need to really write down the theme.
And this, I think the first plan was developed before I got here, so I just took and adapted it. But we did adapt it as a go team though. We did modify it rather as a go team.
Right, it's a
Mhm.
5-year plan.
Yeah.
And that is how, I recall doing it, like sitting with, Ms. Boatright and, going through the prior strategic plan and adjusting some things and that was the 5, 6 years ago, that would have happened.
But we did it as well. because that was part of what I had to do.
And then we refreshed it.
Uh-huh.
Um, probably.
So we don't have to. do
So
it.
much has changed.
I moved to.
So much has changed.
Yeah, is it a motion that
I
we need to
don't know
do?
what we need to do.
This is also under action items, so it would be a motion to, table this, vote on any changes to ranking the strategic plan priorities until our next meeting.
I mean, we can't,
Whatever you want to move around the
I'm just
strategic plan priorities.
thinking of what we base this on, because we can't. I mean, if we wanted to base it on GMAS, somewhat on GMAS, we would be basing it on last year.
I mean, they really want us to make these decisions today.
Okay, so let's make a motion to take action. And then we can discuss it and then we can vote on it.
So I move that we take action to review the strategic plan priority rankings. Right? Is that what we're trying to do?
Is it to review them or to adopt them? Or to approve them?
I would review and change these personally, but.
Yeah, but what we're saying, but like,
What,
Like review and rewrite, or just clarifying question?
sure, go ahead.
Are we reviewing these for this strategic plan, or in order to form a new strategic plan?
So let's, I don't want to say it like this way, scratch the strategic plan out of our
I
mind,
hear you, yeah.
okay? And think about when we come together and I have my budget sitting in front of me. This is what we're gonna use to say, this is what we need based on our priorities for the budget. So this is not as important as this, because number one on our list
Right.
is embed a data-driven multi-tier system of support to improve performance for
Okay.
in math and ELA. So we really do wanna, and it doesn't have to be this meeting, if we wanna take it home and think about it, but we do need to take this and kind of shift it to, this was a different school 5 years ago when this was made. So now, based on where we are right now, what are our priorities for the school? What needs to be moved? What is the superintendent focused on? And that's where we're going to say, when it's time to move money, okay, we need this person, we need this. As I think about the plan, when I come back to you all, I may say, you know what? This year I need 3 part-time reading teachers because our reading scores need to move up and these people can tutor our students in the areas that they need. Right now, and this is a true story, right now we have 1 part-time reading teacher that works during the day that pulls kids out and helps them with their reading. Now, if we look and we say that that's a priority, what number would that be? Was it 3? No, it was one that was better. Where's the one
Four.
MTSS? 4. Then we move that closer to the top. So then as we look at spending money, we're spending money to pull in more assistance, more support for those students that need more help with math and ELA. So not saying that we have to hash through all of this now because it's already long and I do have the cluster advisory now, but it doesn't matter. I can catch up with that later. But what we do need to do is kind of really think about if we have to make a hard decision, do these priorities align to where we're willing to make the hard decisions and cut from or add to? So that's where that lies. I don't think we have to think about the plan as much, but we have to think about looking forward to next year, where do we want money to move? Where do we need the most support in order to help the students grow?
Do we need to add a meeting in December to do this?
They're still testing in December.
But really, the tests are not gonna affect how we as a
Our
board
priorities.
feel on what our priorities are for the next
Have
budget.
strategic plan.
Well, I won't have, the budget by then anyway, by January.
Okay, well, I mean, our next meeting.
so
is
what
not
you're
until
saying is
January
before
23rd,
the
though.
budget meeting, we should have this discussion, hash out what we want.
And it could be the January meeting, that should be fine.
But I think
Carla?
the way my brain works, I need to think.
I mean, just to me, I'm like ELA, math, science, maintaining our IB status are like the 4 most important things.
So like,
And we could get data on, like,
Magnitude.
yeah, I mean, and some of those can be combined, but I'm just thinking like, when I look at if I were having to make a priority, somebody asked me, what do we need to focus on? Math and reading and science.
And I would
And,
agree
you
with
know,
that.
I mean, that's very generic and just the subject area. How we go about that, I don't know, but those should be our priorities.
What if we took 3, 4, and 5, moved them to the top, moved 1 down to 8? And that way the first one would be global learning community, literate community, math and ELA, and then math, science, and technology on the top.
Mhm.
And then arts and social emotional, WCI team. Maybe move the offer professional learning up.
I think this discussion could go on. Like, that's why I think it'd be good to like table it and do it when we've all had.
Here's another suggestion, and I agree with you there. Everyone take a picture of it and re-rank it the way they would do it. And that's for our discussion in January.
It's on the website too.
Isn't, okay, then I'll just.
But Chrissy, I do pretty much agree with what you said though. And then merging 1 and 9.
But I think we can, yeah, I don't want to be passionate, but I think we can add that professional development into ELA, math and science and technology. You know, like we can combine that with strong professional development for teachers in
Yeah.
mathematics instruction or, you know, science of reading and.
I mean, if one of us thought that small class sizes was important, would that be something we would want to include, if that person would recommend on priority ranking?
That could be something, but also, keeping in mind, we'll have to really talk about what the trade-off is. Because what is the trade-off? What do we have to lose?
But that would be a
that's-
strategy for a priority, right? No.
That could be a priority.
I mean, if we're talking about things that are data-driven to success.
Yes.
Right? That's what I'm thinking of, or even outside of Sarah Smith data, right? What data is there in the education field of what gets the biggest bang for your buck, as Ann said? I mean, I wouldn't want to trade off, I wouldn't want to have 35 kids in a class.
Let's bring
personally.
that to the
Like that,
discussion.
you know, I mean,
Let's re-rank, let's
Re-rank and add to.
re-rank, think about, you know, and then come back ready to discuss and get, I like the idea that you're talking about, Carla, is like there's a lot of stuff, just like there's a lot of stuff. Just like what is the most important?
And when you focus on everything,
You
When
diminish
everything's
everything.
important.
hmm,
When everything's important.
nothing is important.
Yeah, and I feel like we're finding that a lot. So we make a motion to table it
Until when though?
till our January meeting, which is not the budget meeting, right?
No,
But in the meantime, we
We're
take
gonna-
this,
We're gonna,
and everybody rank it. I can do a little number crunching on that. That sounds like a spreadsheet waiting to happen. Right up my alley.
Should we give us, instead of waiting till January, because if I wait until January, I'm not gonna do it, because I'll forget. Should we set an internal
Yeah, that's a great idea.
deadline,
Mhm.
like just have a Google folder? and we all-
she's gonna,
Yeah,
Chrissy, or let's work together, Chrissy, to make that
Okay.
happen.
and
We'll take these, create like a survey for us to rank them.
yes,
And have all that information housed in on one spreadsheet. And then the last part of the survey will be, perhaps write an additional one that you would like, and what number would you rank that?
sure.
okay.
That way, we're not just stuck with these. And even if we say take one away, we'll leave a space with notes where we can add in what we want.
Before we close December 20th, before we close,
Before we leave,
before we leave December 20th.
okay, our goal is,
Yeah.
well, can we get it done next week?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay, so I believe that it says we have to have an action item to rank these, so we would keep these And we can always add it to the next agenda if we want to rank, if we want to have an action item to update the strategic plan or change the priority.
So let's go ahead and say
So
we'll
let's
add
maybe-
that to the next agenda for January
Okay.
now,
But we have to,
rank it
we
ourselves.
have to do a motion, I'm assuming, right here, because it
We
says
have to-
required after discussion.
Yeah.
So we just have to make a motion to keep the strategic plan priority rankings as is, for now,
Okay,
okay? So who wants to do that?
I move to maintain the strategic plan priority ranking.
Thank you, Carla. I'll second. Elizabeth, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The motion carries. That's great.
okay.
I'm gonna dial in.
I think we're almost done. Oh. At our next time, we will begin the discussion of the 2025-26 budget. Let me and the chair know of any additional information you need for our future discussion. Now, there were two things, safety update and what else? Was that it?
I asked about the, uniform.
Yeah.
No, and I know he emailed me and he said that they're working on getting the materials from district to be able to move forward.
And I think they
There's a
said
bit of
that.
a bottleneck there.
It's come from, it's like a script and I feel it, understand. Safety, the safety committee met, I believe our next date is December 2nd.
That's right.
And we just discussed tracking the progress on the things that we've asked for, seeing where we are, the fencing and anything of that nature, looking at, fundraising, but not through asking parents, first looking at doing, grants and seeing if we had a grant writer available amongst our parent community or in our community that could actually write grants if we find some out there for improving safety, because one of the parents said there's all types of grants out there for improving safety, so why not apply to get some of those first? And then I will be creating, hopefully soon, a tracking sheet to say, okay, this is where everything is. So that'll be the accountability piece so we can move on. And there was one more thing.
We've got crossing guards approved.
Yay.
Now we just need to hire crossing guards,
Well, not approved.
or the positions are
The
open.
positions are open and they've been open. They've been trying to get someone up there, but no one really wants to come up here and work.
Because of the pay.
Well, the pay and the traffic. So, for example, we had a lady that was working and she literally was just sitting in our car all day until it was time to do the afternoon. And we didn't have anything to give her, offer her for in between where we could have said, hey, if you work in the cafeteria, you know, you come in the morning, do this, work in the cafeteria, then leave and do crossing guard. So it's hard. It's just maybe finding someone that really doesn't want to
That
really
wants to
work.
7 to 8.
Yeah, just do a
Yeah.
quick 2 hours here or 2 hours in the afternoon and be done.
Mhm.
But I have shared that already with the community via Facebook. I may send it out again via Remind.
It came out versus today in the Buckhead Civic, what? the
Okay,
North
I think
Buckhead.
you sent it.
Yeah,
to
that
them.
came out, it came out in a big blast, so that's good.
So maybe someone that wants to work will pick it up and, you know, you're not gonna become a millionaire or anything, but that's really the last thing. And then we'll go into a meeting tonight.
Like a local, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to, it could be anyone, right?
Yeah, you'll get hired by APS, you'll do a background check, you'll get cleared, and then you'll be able to be a crossing guard for the school system.
Now, can we put a sign out, like how they have like bus drivers wanted, can we put
We should,
crossing guard wanted?
Yeah.
Look at these cute
I'm just
faces.
thinking there's somebody, and then
There's someone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They walk over there at 7 in the morning and
That's a great idea.
There's
So
a
would
van in the
maybe
neighborhood.
APS have signs for that, you think?
so I'll ask the police.
And he does a lap
And
around.
then
the
for, I
front
saw.
circle and
I
the
know
side
him.
circle.
He's always over here. I wonder if he would want to.
If he sees the sign.
I should just say, hey, you want a job?
Cause he is every single morning, rain, shine,
And
a
then
little beanie.
there's a NAPS meeting tonight, starting at
6:45.
6:45 with the superintendent and one of the Buckhead groups. I don't remember which one, but NAPS is sponsoring it. And that's it for now.
Is
Wait,
it,
and the resource officer, on the news, they said APS is putting resource officers in elementary school, so that means we'll get one or two?
2,
Two.
1 per campus.
is the next meeting? Is it on Zoom?
It is,
Mhm.
it's through the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we did have the luncheon today, the fall family luncheon for kindergarten and 5th grade. Had a lot of people come. I got to serve cafeteria food and have a whole new appreciation for what they do every day. It's not, as you would think that's, oh, it's easy. So shout out to them. All right, that's it for
Do
me.
we have any other announcements? We have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business? Last call. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann and Carla. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. 4:42.
Thank you to everyone online. Have a good evening.
If you email this presentation, how did we not get it?
I didn't.
It was emailed on, well, not this one, but the one.
Yeah, I did find that.
On the 9th
Yeah.
of December.
Does anyone want me to forward them that Buckhead Council of Neighborhood meeting